you're not at the place where saying the lines isn't an act of memory. That's what I think you want to get to. Like when you're saying the lines, and it's not because you're just remembering them, but it's because it's not an act of memory anymore. You're just talking.
I'm Emily Longretta with Variety, and I am very excited to introduce Bill Pullman, who needs no introduction.
Michael pretty good, isn't he?
It's a hard act to follow.
Yeah. There's a little actor in him.
Thank you. Let's start at the beginning here. Everyone just got to watch the whole film, so I want to kind of start with your first introduction to the Murdaughs and this whole story.
Yeah, it's true. I have to out myself to a certain extent in that I'm not really, on the internet that much, so I don't try to. I actually have to limit myself because I like it too much. That's the truth. Because as soon as you get in, you spiral into this kind of thing, and then you don't take out the garbage, you don't get your second cup of coffee, but. So I hadn't heard about it, and when I got the script, they said they had to explain that this was, a true life story, and then I realized it's like kind of like being naked at a graduation ceremony, and realized I thought that's what we were told to do, but everybody else knew the whole story, but except for me. But and then when I read the script. I had a very, like a personal reaction to it. And, it was weird, kind of like I was deeply embarrassed. And there was, like, I was going to be exposed. And I thought, I don't know. This is weird. I don't think I should do this part. But then I really was impressed by Michael's script, that there was a lot of, contradictory information in it. It was based on truth. It felt like it was truthfully. And then I began to realize how much of it was he incorporated verbatim dialogue, and, which is a gift in itself to know how to lace that into the fabricated scenes and make it all feel one. And I have always been an addict for transcriptions. It was, went back in the day when they had the micro cassettes. Some of you might remember those. I don't know. They were in dictation machines and stuff like that. And in the 80s, when I went to New York, I, in classes and stuff, and then everything's so alive around you. And I used to take that recorder into diners and things, and I'd leave it on top of the banquette next to a table that was particularly talkative, and then I'd record it, and then I'd type it out, and I'd look for material to do in class that was based on transcriptions. So, me reading transcriptions in this script was like, sign me up. I'll do that.
That's what got you. How much did you go back and do research? What was that process like? Because, I think a lot of people, including myself, I was glued to the trial, watching it on TV. So were you immediately Googling that and wanting to watch it, or did you kind of want to have a distance?
Yeah, I think I was not. I had this thought that, because I had said to some couple friends or something, that I said, I'm thinking about doing this part of Alec Murdaugh, and they always say, "Oh, I hate that guy," and I knew he was lying all the way through it. I could tell he was lying, and then I thought, I don't think that is good for the story. If you are already prejudiced against this character and you've seen it, then it's just everything is just, biased confirmation or something. But rather than being really disturbingly caught between, is he lying or not lying? So I thought, I'm not going to watch that much of this stuff, because it'll, if they don't think he's a good actor, then maybe I have to be a little better actor, But then I think I asked my agents to talk to Stacy, who actually was the producer, but I didn't know it at that time. But does he have to do this verbatim, like mirror exercises in acting 101, where everything has to be really exactly just like him? Because I said, I don't think I can. I can't figure this out that way. And the word came back, no, we're interested in your interpretation of it or something. And so I thought, good, I don't have to watch that much of this stuff. Then you realize it's like crack cocaine. Then I got the same thing that everybody else did, which is they couldn't go, and it was dangerous to do it because time. I mean, I never imagined that, and I don't think it's true. In most courtrooms, they allow a TV, a camera. It's just they're different from state to state, and they're different zone to zone, districts to district, and but there it was like this YouTube is 2 hours and a half. This YouTube is an hour and a half. And then his deposition and the other's deposition. And then I thought, I can't afford to look at this because I got lines to learn. I got to, I was nervous about whether I was in shape mentally enough for it, just fit endurance-wise. And I thought, I can't watch this. But then I turned back and watched it again, more of it.
Draws you right in. Was it, like you just said, in shape mentally, which I think is an interesting way to put it. Was it tougher for you to get into the physicality of Alex or to get into the mindset of Alex?
Well, I didn't really divide it, I guess, but I think this is SAG, so everybody knows, you do a project a year and a half ago, and then you go and do a play, and it's like, I don't know if I have it anymore. I just somehow you just never know if you're going to, have I lost it? Something this hard to do. I could have done this another time in my life, but am I up for this now? I kind of had to, because I was thinking that 12-hour days, some days where you have 5 really big scenes, just because of the location demanded it, and you don't want to be at risk of making choices because you're fatigued, in some kind of fatigue, mental fatigue or something, or worse yet, you're scrambling for lines, If you're tired, you didn't spend that last hour or two the night before or early that morning, you didn't get up early enough to get on top of it, and then you're kind of performing, but you're not at the place where saying the lines isn't an act of memory. That's what I think you want to get to, like when you're saying the lines, and it's not because you're just remembering them, but it's because it's not an act of memory anymore. You're just talking, and you got to be so on top of it. But
what was the process for you to get down that voice? Because he has a very specific voice. Yeah, because we've been only doing press in the last couple of days, because we couldn't, And but I realized how many people today on the interviews were asking about my voice, and I hadn't realized that. But I remember going back and realizing it's a different place in my head, that's more located up higher. My head, which was, usually you think a southern thing is being back in the throat and everything.
But that was, he had a higher nasality and everything, which I thought was good for me because it would be all the more, I could build that into the other things, which is when I'm up there and I'm doing that, I'm like already there.
Oh my God, it's creepy. It's creepy. It's so distinct. What is it, at this point in your career, and been doing this for so long, what is it about a script or a role that makes you say yes now?
Needing the money. That's a cheap shot, but it's always, yeah. I mean, really, I think of how bad I have always been, like thinking no, first, and then just because I don't know what it is, like I probably have at times been more negative at the end of a read, and you don't know why you're saying no, really. If it's an offer and that's already good and the people involved are good, what's making you say no, or you're thinking, no, I can't do this, or I won't be able to pull this off, or whatever. But, then to me, it's like a moment where the script comes back to you. Like it'd be an hour later or 2 hours later. So lots of times I think, because I don't think I'm fortunate enough that where I can say no, but I also am unfortunate enough that I have to kind of say yes. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense, but I mean, I just think like sometimes you're just predicting this script could be good, but I mean, it could be bad, could be this if you got wrong. Anyway, I guess I don't really know what it is except for that moment. And I always remember, because I did Edward Albee play 2002 called The Goat on Broadway. And that was about a guy 50 years old. He had just won the Pritzker Prize for architecture. He has married to a wonderful relationship with his wife, has a son who's perfectly, integrated, accepting all of his son's choices, and then you reveal he's been hiding a deep secret, and that he, in fact, could be called out and be witheringly ashamed or lost and exposed and heavily criticized and rejected, which is that it comes out that what he's been hiding is that he's in love with a goat. That's the way I laughed too. Like, oh God. But this was the part I knew it had gone to, because, Edward was a great American playwright, one of the best that was still alive at that time. But I knew the people had turned this part down before I did. And I thought, what's causing them to turn this down? Edward Albee play and everything. Oh, again, he's in love with a goat. But, and I thought, oh, I can't do this. And then I was like, I think I remember this moment better than almost any other moment of saying yes to something. I was at the kitchen table, and I got up, and I had forgot that I didn't clear my place, and I turned back, and I realized I was doing all that as Martin. That like the whole physical thing was inside me, and I hadn't seen it coming, and I thought I had said no.
It chose you. You didn't choose it.
Yeah, that's
it chose you.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, it chose me.
In this, anytime someone plays a killer or a villain in a way that has some very dark past, a lot of actors obviously talk about finding the human side of them, because you have to do that in a way to play this character, and maybe not view them as the villain. So how did you find that?
Well, I think I did think that it was going to be a bad thing if people could see the criminality of him right away, and it was only reinforcing that every scene, that it wouldn't, they need to suspend their final verdict on this character as long as possible, to be able to kind of think that the story's fluid, his actions are fluid, what his choices will be are fluid and unstable, therefore compelling, all that stuff. Feels like it was good to go that way. And then, but I think also I had to say at a certain point, I had to call Greg Beeman, who is the director. And this is one of those ones where you're, forced marriage. He's been hired. They want you to do it. You can't take more than one extra day to decide because we have to start shooting and we have to get done before the strike. And so I'm talking to him, and at a certain point, I like this guy. We're gonna collaborate really well on this, because he said, I think that he really loved Maggie and he really loved Paul. So that meant, and he killed him. So there's paradox. Those are contradictory thoughts. And that's more interesting than he loved them, but not quite so much that you can't. I mean, in the end, he did sacrifice them. His own narcissism, just took over, I think, because the house of cards was collapsing, his drug addiction was, getting more fraught, and all of that stuff. But I thought that paradox is what's human about our lives. You think of the number of times that you say, I love two contradictory things. It was like a little bit like the goat when I think about it. I loved my wife, but I loved Julia, the name of the goat.
It all comes back to the goat. That's what this is going to be, guys. That's what it's going to be. Michael was just up here talking a little bit about the writing process and working with you. Was there any scenes or anything in the script that you went to him and you wanted to add things or wanted to change things, and you guys had that collaboration?
That's a good question. That's the fact that I've never even thought about it until you asked me, maybe, is, because for me, I really, really like this script a lot. And, I just had come through 4 years of doing The Sinner, where, the scripts are coming in and there's all these story points and all this cop talk and everything, and really we collaborated a lot to kind of make that work. Whereas this one, it felt like I just need to get a shot at it. Get me on the horse and open the chute. Let's go, And I don't think there was anything that I thought, I did feel like with the final edit, we had to lose some scenes that were really good scenes. And I was aware that Stacy and Greg were fighting the good fight to get them in there. But then there's just time and everything.
What was cut? Can you tell us? We're all very curious.
Well, there was a great scene that's with earlier in the day of the night of the murders, when Alec went down to the kennels, and he talks to Paul, and there's guns that have been left out there, and Paul, being him, was riding high on whoever, what he was all about. And Alec didn't like the fact he left these, he'd been frustrated with him, Paul, and then he realizes this gun thing lying around like that is, he doesn't like that, and confronts Paul about it. And it's an intense confrontation, and where Alec really it's like what every father fears he'll do with his son. It's the least productive thing to do is grab him and, almost want to chew his head off. But but that kind of happens. But in the middle of it, it also turns into an emotional hugging and a very, really strange pivot to being contrite and then to let's go shoot some guns. Let's, in the bonding moment. And I thought that was a really great scene. That was clearly all Michael, but it felt so true. It felt like Michael had gone to a point that we don't get to see in any other scene. That was what was always like, oh God, that scene, so good for that, but I had to let it go.
It sounds so much like the contradictory reason that you were into this, because that does show both sides of him, that anger and love together.
Yeah, like a Janus face, flipping back and forth,
It's crazy. For you, do you feel like it was more rewarding or more exciting for you to play a real person versus playing a person that was strictly on paper?
Well, I played real people before, and I usually don't try to get in touch with them. And I made that choice not to get in touch with Murdaugh. Aside from the fact that I couldn't see him. Nobody let me have
I mean, there are people in the family that you could have gotten in touch with if you wanted to, maybe.
Well, fortunately, I didn't have time. I had to go and do it, but I do think Too Big to Fail, that movie. There's a lot of good actors in it, and then there was a group of us actors who were hired to play the heads of these financial institutions that needed to kind of pool some resources to pull the stock markets out of the toilet where they were headed very quickly. And so I played Jamie Dimon, who's Chase, and there was other guys there. And I decided not to talk to Jamie Dimon, because there is a lot on him and everything, YouTube and everything. And then I realized we start shooting, and all the other heads of these banks got in touch with the actors. And the actors wanted to have a conversation with them. And I thought, oh my God, did I mess up? Did I lose an opportunity to find another layer? And then I decided, no, I was the cool one. I wasn't going to be bought. I was not. And they went to good restaurants. Those bankers took them to the, restaurants on the top of the buildings. So
You missed out on those meals.
Right. I got it later, though.
Yeah. Of course.
I ended up he invited my wife and I, to his penthouse for a party, And this was one where you get an invitation, and the invitation is an acrylic plaque. I kept it for show the grandchildren, But it was a really big deal, and I knew there was going to be anybody in New York City going to be there. And I said, how do you dress for this, And I'm not going to wear a coat. I'm not going to wear a tie. I'm not going to do that. Just wear this shirt and this pants. And he answers the door with Julie, his wife, and he's wearing the exact thing I was wearing. It was a powder blue button-down shirt, khaki pants, brown shoes. We were one.
Again, these roles have chosen you. This is what we're learning.
Yeah, these roles have
chosen you.
Good point. You're there again.
Here we are again. I know we do want to have some fan questions, but audience questions here. I want to ask you though, was it easy for you to go in and out of the mindset when at the end of the day of filming? Because this is such a quick turnaround when you guys filmed, but I'm curious, when the camera stopped and you go home, was it easy for you to turn off that? Because I know there are some really heavy scenes here.
Yeah, they and actors here, so that some of the darkest moments are at the end of the day when you realize you're going through the catalog of all the choices you forgot to make or didn't make, or you should have never made, and you're going. It just is something that can't. Sometimes it happens in the middle of the night. You wake up and go, "Geez, dumb," or something. But I felt so. And this one, it was like already I had to go to the next scene, so I had to short circuit all that stuff, and I didn't really second guess very much.
Thank you all so much for coming, Bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys. Really appreciate you came here in the middle of the day, saw this movie. I love you a lot.